Today, I wanted to highlight 3 of the biggest issue in College Football 25 Dynasty mode up until this point. Now, the game's only been out a couple of days now, and hopefully EA fixes some of these changes within the next week because some of them are pretty massive. Now, I wanted to start out by saying the game is still a positive as a whole, as we have not had a college football video game in 11 years, so the game has plenty of good, but we should be allowed to also call out the mess-ups without being labeled as just some hater that doesn't know what they're talking about and won't be satisfied with anything. I think it's totally fine that we call out EA for some of the mess-ups so far because at the end of the day, they want to make a game that we want to play, and we want to enjoy playing Dynasty. Dynasty is supposed to be their biggest game mode, the reason why we're playing it, and the fact that there's been so many issues up until this point kind of is alarming. Now, as well as Dynasty, there's plenty of Ultimate Team and Road to Glory issues, but I'm not going to cover them today, and if this video does well, I'll go ahead and bring those issues to light as well. Now, the first issue is that people aren't able to load old Dynasties that they've been playing, like ever, and they're not able to recover it. So people have started Dynasties and they've noticed an issue where they haven't been able to jump into their Dynasties that they've already started, and this is a real issue because they're like, hey, we're able to create new Dynasties, but we're not able to jump into the old ones that we've been using for a couple of days now, and it's kind of like, oh, well, your progress is lost. It's still there, but you can't get into it, and hopefully this is something that EA is patching. Now, they are aware of this, but as of right now, which is Sunday, July 21st, I haven't heard anything of them fixing it so far. Now, the reason why this is one of the 3 biggest issues is obviously because if you can't even get into your Dynasty, then what's the point of playing? It's one of the reasons I haven't even started a Dynasty yet, is because I'm waiting for all the initial bugs to get out of the way, but trust me, you're going to love to see the Dynasty that I start. Now, I guess the first issue that's of the game itself, or the second issue of the video, is the polls. The polls are horrid. In the college football playoff poll, there's been way too many instances where a Georgia team that's sitting around 500 is still in the top 5 of the polls, and it's unfair to the teams that are still 1 or 2 losses that are sitting right below them. Now, this is obviously a big issue as it takes away from the immersion of the game, as you're sitting there with your 9-1 team. If you're Indiana at 9-1 in the Big Ten, and yet Georgia's sitting here at 5-5, but they're ranked higher than you, it's like, okay, I get we want to give bias to the big brands, but it's not like they would ever put a team in just because of the brands, right? They would never put a 1-loss conference champion in over an undefeated conference champion, especially if both of them are from the Power 5, right, guys? Now, this logic needs to be fixed because there's way too many of these instances where a blue blood team that's lost 4 or 5 games right off the bat, and they're still ranked in the top 10. Now, kind of bouncing off that, the last issue here today is going to be the sim. There's been way too many FCS East and FCS West, whatever the teams are, beating these top dogs like Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan. Now, I know we want to see realism in these games, and hey, every once in a while, it's cool to see an Appalachian State knock off of Michigan, or to see a Purdue blow out Ohio State by 30. But to see in the first week, I saw this on Reddit, going into week 6 or 7, every single blue blood was at like 4-4. That math actually doesn't work out. You get what I mean? Every single blue blood was like 500 going into week 6 or 7. It's like, that's not realistic. Like, I'm all cool with seeing the Indianas and the Purdues and the Vanderbilts up at the top. That's what we want to see, right? That's fun. But at the same time, there's no reason that Georgia should be 4-5 heading into week 10. Now, this has actually affected the playoff in general because these teams that are 4-5, 5-5, or even 6-6 at the end of the year are making the playoffs. I saw this one post where there was a 5-7 Georgia team being ranked 10th and making the playoff. How is that even possible? I mean, I have no clue what the rest of the rankings are below that, but to see that, that's almost impossible to see. And right above that, you see Utah being 6-6 and ranked 7th. Like, that's also impossible. What is the logic? Why is it not making sense? Point being, there's been way too many 500 or below teams that are making the college football playoffs, as you've seen on Reddit and all these other websites, and this takes away from the immersion and ruins the experience. We want realism at the end of the day, and I know EA is working. They've got a team that's dedicated for Ultimate Team, they got a team probably fixing Road to Glory, and they got a team heading towards Dynasty as well. But hey, they didn't hire me, so don't complain about not being able to fix all the issues that you guys have if you're not going to go out and hire these people that know the changes that need to be made and can probably do something about it. Now, do I know how to code? No, but if I can sit here and identify the issues that we're seeing in Dynasty, people want to get into a room and just list off these things like, hey, EA, the game has been out a week and there's all these issues. Now, hey, great game. We love seeing college football in a video game form that we haven't seen in 11 years in 2 different consoles, but can we at least get some of these parts right, you know? One of the features that I think we're all missing right now is the toughest places to play. You can go to Dynasty mode on NCAA 14 and see the toughest places to play ranked, and I know they said it's going to be a dynamic ranking where it changes every single week, but the fact that you can't go in and see this list every single week like a poll is kind of annoying. You have to play against a team to see them in the top 25, and I think that's just not really the way that should be. Now, that last one I just did as an add-on. The 3 biggest things from today is that people aren't even able to access their old Dynasties, and they're losing their progress after days of work, as well as the polls being horrid with way too many teams that have been around 500 making the playoffs or still being in the top 10. And last but not least is the sim. Way too many FCS teams and upsets are happening. We want a little bit of upsets in college football, but not to this extent. With that being said, you got to let me know if you enjoyed, but also list something down below that you found out with an issue with Dynasty. I know there's been some recruiting issues. I know there have been some coaching issues with trying to upgrade the skills and some strategy issues of how to build a team. So let me know down below what your biggest issue so far has been with College Football 25, and hopefully they get around to changing these. At the end of the day, we just want a realistic game that we could play that has replayability. But as always, don't forget to show me some love down below, and most importantly, have a great day. Peace.